Welcome to Raising and Rising, the podcast where parents, educators, and women leaders come together to elevate themselves and the children they nurture. I'm Sheryl from Self-Directed Life, and I'm your host for this podcast. Each episode will offer heartfelt conversations, expert insights, and practical coaching tips that will help you raise resilient, curious, empowered children while rising to your fullest potential. Whether you're looking for guidance on joyful learning, conscious parenting, or stepping into your leadership with confidence, Raising and Rising provides the tools and inspiration that you will need to thrive. Elle is a former teacher with 30 years of experience and the founder of a Wellbeing support business dedicated to helping children thrive through mental health support and educational innovation. From her fascinating journey in Bali to her holistic approach to counseling, Elle shares insights that will inspire parents and educators to look beyond behavior and nurture the whole child. Let's dive in.
Hi, welcome. Today I have Elle with me, and I will have Elle to introduce herself. Elle, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
I was a teacher for 30 years, both public and private education, and finished my teaching career at an international school in Bali, where I was a co-principal, which is a really beautiful place, I think, to finish my education journey.
Mhm.
But I realized I was still stressed. I was still under a lot of stress, even in this beautiful environment. There was a beautiful rainforest, so the children were really free and happy. But as a teacher, I was still under a lot of pressure. I think it's just all education systems are overloading teachers.
Overloading the teacher.
Yeah. So I realized it wasn't just Australia. It was, I think it's globally
Right.
in a lot of places.
How are they overloading the teachers? In what way?
I think the focus in education, I'm speaking mainly for Australia now, has become about gathering data to improve test results. Standardized testing has become the focus. Money is given to schools when they do well, so that puts schools under pressure. And when there's this top-down sort of pressured approach,
Right.
the teachers are kind of stuck between the system
Right.
and the children.
Yeah.
And what I saw was not only the teachers, I felt the stress. I have an autoimmune condition now because of the stress. So I have to live with that forever. But I also saw the mental health of our children declining. So in a few years prior to being in Bali, I also studied counselling because I was working in a school with a lot of refugee children, the most horrific stories. And they would come and tell me their stories, and I didn't know how to respond. I didn't have that training. So I decided I would add that training on so that I could give them that support that they needed and direct them to the right people. But yeah, I fell in love then with the counselling side of things. And so I opened my own business, and we do wellbeing support for children via telehealth and in person.
Can you tell me more a little bit about how that structures in your business? Is it just counseling? Because you do like wellness support? Do you do outreach programs? Where in the space are you?
So I'm straddling a couple of different areas at the moment. So I have moved out of the one-to-one space myself. I've employed a play therapist to work with the younger children. And I'm just in the process of employing some more telehealth specialists, because in Australia we're a really big country and we have a lot of children in rural and remote communities that have no access to mental health support at all. So I want to make sure that those children have really good quality support. There are year-long waiting lists in Australia for children to see psychologists and things. So so we're trying to get our reach out there so that we can be more preventative. I'm a holistic counsellor, so we have a more holistic approach than the clinical approach. So we're more preventative. We're working with children before it gets to that sort of really.
So what sort of preventative measures or things you would do for a child? If say you have a child who is having this issues, they come to you, what would you do?
I listen. I think we underestimate children's capacity to know themselves. And we as the adults think we know what they need. So we first and foremost provide a space for them to be open and vulnerable and to share whatever it is that they're struggling with, and to listen non-judgmentally. and then provide that sort of collaborative building of strategies. What would you like to do about this? Really making sure they have agency and autonomy in their healing journey, because it's their journey. We're just there to guide them and support them. So we work with breath work, we do meditation, relaxation type things. So really teaching them to listening to their body. We work with a lot of neurodivergent children who have a very underdeveloped sense of interoception. So they're just not able to hear what their bodies are telling them. So we develop that skill so that they can understand themselves. And it's a beautiful thing when a child says, I'm feeling like this, and this is what I need to do about it. And they go, that's given them that sort of sense of self. And it's a beautiful kind of thing. But we also I'm really passionate about supporting teachers in schools, because that also supports the children. Yeah, so we do workshops and things in teaching. And we take sort of a polyvagal approach to the nervous system and teaching teachers how to regulate themselves. So if we can have more regulated classrooms, that co-regulation happens, that children can start to go to school and feel more safe physiologically and more comfortable, and then learning can happen. But we've got stressed out classrooms, stressed out teachers, stressed out principal. Children can't learn effectively or optimally in those environments.
So just now you were saying you were a principal in a school in Bali, right? With your knowledge of polyvagal theory, did you think that you could have maybe used that as a little experimental playground, and then you use that to teach all your teachers? And then
the polyvagal research and theory came after. I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always experimenting with things and researching and looking at, well, what else can I do to help myself? And so part of my journey then when I got sick was to look at how do I heal my own body. And so I started to study somatic therapy, did my own work, and then realized, wow, this is great for body. We all need to understand our bodies and how they work and how to regulate. And then that's when I was sort of introduced to polyvagal theory through that. Well, yeah, I became quite fascinated.
Oh, I love the polyvagal theory. It's so complicated. It's taken me so long to understand it, but it's so powerful. Yeah, so if there was like maybe one thing that you wish that parents or educators would know about to help children become better at this, learning about themselves or be better in school, what would that be?
I think my first and main message is that children's behavior is telling you something. It is never bad behavior. It is never deliberate. Children can look like they are deliberately choosing a pathway, but that's a survival response in itself. Sometimes we have to manipulate a situation to survive. And so children, these ways that come out through their behavior. And I think as adults, we miss that communication, and it feels personal as a parent or as a teacher. It feels like their behavior is very personal, and that triggers something in us that we haven't resolved for ourselves. So I think, my main message is always, please look beyond the behavior. The child is communicating something, and it's our job to explore and dig deeper with that child to find out what that is.
Yeah, some parents come to me and they tell me like, I know all of that, but when it comes to that situation, then I get triggered. How do I stay regulated?
It's awareness. It's learning about your own body and what triggers you, what that feels like in the body. For some people it's in the stomach area, for some people it's in the heart and chest area. Others will tell you it's around the jaw or the neck or the shoulders, or they tense the hands. Everybody's different in how polyvagal theory is the same for all of us, but we respond differently. So we need to learn to understand ourselves. So really being aware of when you're triggered, what that feels, and then learning how to use our breaths to bring that sort of back to a state of calm, because we can only make good choices and good responses, positive, healthy responses from that state of sort of more calm, regulated space. And then we're teaching our children. If we're modeling that, and I always say to parents, please tell your children what you're doing. I'm feeling really dysregulated right now. And notice we talk in terms of guard dog and things like that with the children. I notice my guard dog is reacting. I'm just going to take 5 deep breaths and then I'll come and speak to you. So we're actually teaching our children it's okay to feel dysregulated. It's okay to feel those emotions. But as an adult, I can take charge of that. And that's how we teach children self-regulation. We don't teach it to them by telling them they have to self-regulate. It's not a natural skill. We have to learn it. And they really have to learn it. I know.
That reminds me of some parents. They come to me and say, can you teach my kids mindfulness? It is so hard for me to explain to the parents that you must first embody mindfulness. You must first be able to do that for yourself before you can teach the children.
Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful skills, important skill. It's like empathy, but they just don't come naturally. We need to really cultivate those skills in children. And I find in a very stressed out education system, we are either trying to squeeze in those things that are actually the most important because they lay the foundations for optimal learning. And if we're just trying to throw them in here, I know in schools when I go in and if I even mention wellbeing program, the eyes roll and people go, oh no, not another thing that we have to fit in. So when I talk to teachers, it's actually about that self-regulation, co-regulation. And when you can do that and the behaviours settle for everybody and the environment is less stressed, then as a teacher, you can start teaching. And they will be ready to learn that we can't learn if we're in a stressed out nervous system.
And such a beautiful place. And we're here in a global education meetup. And you're going to be discussing about global diploma. So tell me, what is your wish or what inspired you to be here?
We met Carmela, who is running the meetup many, many years ago in Bali, and Janine also. And they had a meetup in Bali. It was just an evening kind of thing called World Cafe. And we got talking and I think we all connected. We knew something had to change. We all knew that we had a vision for things being much more balanced in education and much more supportive of children's mental health and well-being. And so, we've been chatting over the years about what could be done. Janine and Carmela are the visionaries. They have come up with some pretty amazing concepts. And so I think it was always going to be that my partner Anthony and I would come along. My partner Anthony he coaches and has done for 5 years. So we've sort of maintained that connection over the years, even though COVID kind of sent us everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was really excited when we saw all of them from amazing people that are here in all the specialty areas and things that just a whole lot of different perspectives coming together and being able to have those conversations and hopefully we can come up with something substantive to take away.
Yeah, so where do you see this global diploma shape up to be? What is your hope to achieve?
My personal hope is that we lay the foundations for an education system, I guess, for want of a better word, that is based on well-being. If we want to create an optimal learning environment for children, and these children will potentially be globally based, so they could be anywhere, but we want to make sure that their health and well-being is paramount to create that optimal learning environment. So I guess for me, it's making sure that we lay those foundations really carefully around mental health and well-being. That to me would be a different system to much of what we have elsewhere at the moment. I think everyone else is trying to find solutions. We've got this opportunity to build something from the ground up that starts with well-being. I love seeing, I'm working in a Montessori school at the moment, and it's in a low socioeconomic area, but our children just got the top standardized results in the state, and they're a tiny little school. And I'm not interested in standardized results. However, it was really interesting to sort of see what is it about this school that I've just started working at that was able to achieve those results. And I don't feel any of that stress in this school. So it's possible. Our teachers look, I think all teachers are stressed, but our teachers at Montessori, relationships come first. The relationships with the children, the relationships with each other. People come to work feeling really positive, and the children really benefit.
Yeah, I see it in you when you say that, that you just twinkle and that you're really excited about this school and how it's transformed. And I wonder, what if we were to put it into a diploma, into a system, what sort of curriculum or how would it be structured such that there is enough grounds to build a whole child to have a strong mental health?
Good question. I think I love the self-design concept that we're going to be discussing. I love children having autonomy over their learning, but we also have to provide them with the confidence and the sense of self-worth to be able to make those choices for themselves. I think it's not really my thing, but I would just love to see that we are providing that wellbeing support throughout the curriculum from the very beginning.
So let's think of it in your school, that you're in this Montessori school. So how did you think you layered on the well-being into this curriculum, into this system, such that you had happy kids, non-stressful educators, and still deliver good standardized tests?
I actually think the whole point is to remove a lot of the competition and stress. That doesn't, we know that our prefrontal cortex won't engage if we are under lots of pressure. We shut down, we go into a survival response. We can't learn effectively from that. And so when I'm in the school and everybody's kind of in the flow and learning is just happening everywhere, it's peaceful, it's calm. Children do a lot of independent work so our early childhood programs are all based on independent work. Children have a lot of choice over what they want to do during the day, but there's also a really kind of tight structure. So it holds them in this really safe space to be able to explore what learning feels like for them. And then as they get older, those structures sort of move back. So it's guided and it's facilitated. And
so when you mean structure, do you mean like maybe a certain inquiry or certain theme or, topic that you focus on that creates your structure? How would you describe the structure?
So what I've observed, haven't been there that long, but what I see even in our reception, which is our first year of formal school in classes, the children come in and on their desk they have a sheet with a grid with 6 activities. And so one of those activities is a gratitude journal. So even 5-year-olds will go and get their gratitude journal and draw a picture of something they're feeling grateful for. Another activity will be independent work, and they have little boxes set up so the children can go and choose their maths work or their writing work. And it's in a little box and it's self-explanatory, so the children just take the activity that they'd like to work on today. Over the course of the morning, the children need to do those 6 activities, but they can choose the order that they do them in. Even at 5, we're saying, you do what feels right for you. We're teaching them how to listen into their bodies and how to follow, their own guidance.
I would say that it actually sounds much simpler than we imagine it to be. Like, we always think, how do we actually do this? Sounds great and so, but it seems so difficult to implement. But the way that you explain it, it's actually not so difficult.
Oh, the classrooms are highly organized. So I think what I've noticed is children come in and feel really physiologically safe in those classrooms. They also have 3 years with the same teacher. So there's a lot of stability. They know the teacher really well. Every class has a classroom assistant. So there's 2 adults in the room at all times. Even with a class of 13 or 14, there's always 2 adults. It makes a huge difference. I know myself when I was working in Bali, we had 2 teachers, an Indonesian teacher and an expat teacher in every classroom. At one stage, I had 10 children, but we still had 2 teachers. So if a child came to me or the other teacher and said, hey, I'm upset about something, we would have to say, sorry, I'm teaching a lesson, I'll talk to you later. One of us would say, who would you like to talk to? the other teacher would take over the lesson if the child needed me, or vice versa. And we would take them outside and we would go and work through whatever was going on for them. So they didn't need to hold on to it. They didn't need to suppress it. They had that sort of instant connection with somebody where they could work through that, and then they let it go. So we had very few squabbles in the playground, very few, arguments and friendship issues and things. The children were able to kind of work through things and let things go really quickly. So yeah, it was a beautiful environment like that.
Wow. All it takes is another teacher. It
Yes.
takes the strength of the main teacher or whoever teaching and
Yeah.
still ensure that everybody else is following the syllabus and not losing out, or not being able to finish the syllabus. And that's one of the biggest things that teachers face, right? Is not being able to complete the syllabus within the year. But if we have another teacher who's able to take this child out and sort things out and bring him back regulated and really ready to learn.
People always ask me what is one thing that I would suggest that we do to kind of start this process. And that, from an Australian perspective, I just think if we were to put a classroom assistant full-time into every single primary school classroom, high school might be a different setup, but every single primary school classroom, I think we will start to see an educational reform. And I know there's a cost in that, but I think the initial cost would be absolutely worth it later on. I think that just, it would take a brave government to commit to that. But I don't think it's that complicated.
Yeah.
I think that's an easy way for us to start making some change.
Yeah, thank you very much for speaking with me today. I learned so much about you and everything else in between. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Sheryl.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Raising and Rising. I hope you have enjoyed my conversation with Elle and gained valuable insights on how to create a safe, nurturing environment for children to grow and learn. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, share it with others, follow Elle's work, and share her passion for child well-being. Remember, keep raising and rising.